This is Steve Morris with this presentation on how to test for product market fit. At this stage, hopefully you've completed the right side of your one-page business model canvas, the side that talks about customer-focused issues, in other words, product market fit hypotheses. And it's time to test those assumptions. How do you test? Test by getting out of the building and doing face-to-face interviews with prospective customers. Why face-to-face? Because you'll learn more if you talk to your customers face-to-face. These are probing interviews where you're really trying to understand initially the need, the job to be done, and what the pain is they're trying to avoid or what the gain is they're trying to reach. To understand that, you really want to have face-to-face interviews where you can watch body language and try to understand how they think about the problem. How to start? Well, step one is to find or get introduced to some prospective customers. How do you do that? Well, that is your first sales challenge. Ultimately, it's obviously going to be important to find customers, and here's where you get started on that process. Get some advice from a mentor, do some brainstorming with your team, figure out how to find and get introduced to some customers, and then tell them you're at a startup. You have an idea for an unmet need, but before you even put in the work and the time and the effort to develop the solution, you want to make sure that the need is really compelling, that you're thinking about it right. You're not selling anything, you don't have anything to sell, you're really looking for feedback, and ask for 30 minutes of their time to get that feedback from them. And then you begin your interview asking probing questions that really focus in on the need. In other words, the job to be done, the pain, and the gain. Now, why focus on need, pain, gain first? Well, you'd really like to understand, again, how the customer is thinking about this unmet need. If you talk about your solution right away, you'll get feedback just on your solution, and you won't get the insight as to really how the customer thinks about the need and why it's a big deal. You're better off to hold off on your solution until a later round of interviews. Really focus on trying to understand the need. And remember, too, you're looking for an emphatic yes. It's very easy to hear customer or what you think is a prospective customer say, oh, yeah, that is a problem. But is it a problem for them? What you're looking for is, yes, I do have that problem. I do have that need. I've been looking for a solution. If you have a way to solve this need, I could use that right now. Is it available now? When can I get it? That's an emphatic yes. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for the market segment that gives you that emphatic yes. So keep that in mind, in the back of your mind, as you go through these need interviews. Now, what might those probing questions look like? Well, here are some examples just to give you a starting point to think about. You might ask, so first, of course, you explain what you think the need is, and then you're asking, is this really a compelling need for you? Why is it a big deal? Have you really been actively looking for solutions? How do you work around this today if it really is an unmet need? What kind of solutions have you tried, and what did you like about them? What did you not like about them? And what would the right solution look like? So again, you're just coming up with different ways to ask and try to understand how they really think about this unmet need. Now, at the same time, you're listening to the words that the customer uses because you're trying to understand, again, their vocabulary when they think about this need. That's going to influence your marketing messaging down the road. When you think about your marketing and sales channel strategies, this is where you get to test some of those hypotheses. How does the customer want to hear about this problem or solution in a way that resonates? So remember to listen to the way the customer talks about this and take notes to be sure that you understand what words they use and you remember that. You're testing other channel questions too. Be sure to ask things like, well, how do you hear about solutions in this kind of an area? Do you look for referrals from friends, read certain magazines, maybe check out newsletters or certain blogs? And how do you like to buy this kind of solution? Would you look for it online or at a retail store? What would be the right way? Or how have you bought products that presumably tried to address this need in the past? Again, this is part of the process of validating the hypotheses you wrote down in your channel section of the canvas. Now, the other way, of course, to test your channel hypotheses is to talk to a mentor who's got some experience in marketing, sales, and sales in your market. So don't forget to include that as part of your channel verification strategy. Pricing is, of course, the other thing that's on your Canvas set of assumptions in the revenue section. How will you price and what will you price? Now, to set pricing, of course, you need to look at the competition and what they're doing. You need to understand your cost. And of course, the goal is to make sure your pricing does indeed more than cover your cost. But you also need to understand how much will customers pay. In other words, where do they see the value? How much value do they see? Turns out there are some bad ways to figure out what customers will pay. Like one not very effective way is to ask them what they would pay. Turns out there's a fair amount of research that says that doesn't work. There are some better ways, and one of the better ways is called the Van Westendorp Pricing Sensitivity Meter. Funny name, but it actually is a process that gives you a lot of useful insight. Won't go through it here. There are several steps. It comes down to asking 4 basic questions to at least 20 customers. There's a very, very thorough explanation in the value pricing video at otbc.org/videos. So I suggest you check that out and incorporate the Van Westendorp questions in some of your customer interviews to find out really what customers are willing to pay for a solution to the need that you've described. Now, later, after you've completed your round of discussions with customers that focus on the unmet need, later you can do another round of interviews that focus on your solution. And again, if you bring your solution out too early, the discussion focuses on that and not on the underlying need. That would be a mistake. So hold off on the solution round until later. When you do get there, it's the same process. You sit down with a customer and you're saying, look, we've talked to a bunch of customers. We now really think we understand the need. And here's what we believe is the solution. And you describe it and you get some feedback. Now, once you've described it verbally and gotten some feedback, maybe you actually have a prototype, maybe some screenshots or some kind of a rough prototype of the physical product. And that would be your low fidelity minimum viable product. You pull that out and show that to the customer, and then you get a little more feedback on the actual instantiation of this sort of low fidelity prototype. So again, you're getting a couple of different levels of feedback. And again, you're looking to really try to understand, does this truly address the problem? Does it solve or meet the unmet need? And is the customer giving you an emphatic yes that, hey, if you implement this right, absolutely, I want to buy it? So that's a quick rundown on the product market fit side of your one-page business model canvas. It's well worth spending the time to have these discussions to validate and test those hypotheses. If you come back with an emphatic yes from a very focused customer segment that says, yes, you've got the need nailed, and yes, your solution really does address that need, and yes, I want to buy it, then the odds of you succeeding with your startup are significantly higher.